Yeah, we don't. He could have a little bit of sidewall damage there to the car that could be affecting his aerodynamics just a little bit. But here comes Doug thinking about a move to the outside, going down into the chicane. He's going to have to be very brave to do it, and pulls it off. Oh, you can't get a whole lot closer than that. My goodness gracious.
Let's take a look at this from the hood, because this is where Partridge needs to change his pants, and Kinchler probably does too after he saw what happened in his mirrors. But Partridge comes in too hot, clips that inside curve, gets unsettled, then he's on the brakes. We're going to go in slow-mo here to see how close it was, and it was very close.
Yeah, the top three have been an incredible fight. Oh man.
Gently does it, boys, as they make their way down. They bang wheels. Oh, Sebastian Tixier, he goes tumbling over. Trengarade going off the circuit. Goodness gracious. Looked like Jim Shedlick went off the track in sympathy there.
This is the view that he has going through. He sees a couple lights in the distance, trying to get it rejoined.
Oh, that's not good. Careful, boys, careful. Too wide coming up, Eau Rouge. And the loser there is going to be Vaughn, as Karthik Pai keeps his foot in it. Vaughn going to lose another position there to Mika Lino, and Lino going to go for a 2-for-1 as they come down the Camel Straight. He has got such massive overspeed. Look at that move from the number 5 machine.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
The Finns were a force to be reckoned with last season, taking both first and second in the championship. A reset in points will allow everyone to start over and trying to catch them, but it doesn't reset everyone's speed. Will this car continue to be the domain of the racing masters from the north? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 1 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The season kicks off here in Austria at the ever-popular Red Bull Ring. Let's hop over to our track guide to find out more about it. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Located near Spielberg, Austria, this track began life in a much more fast and sweeping format. Having gone through multiple different owners, it eventually was snatched up by Red Bull and has its 3 different layouts you see today. While they range roughly between 1 to 2.5 miles in length, the thing they hold in common are fast straights, hard braking zones, and very few corners. In fact, the longest and most common layout, the Grand Prix course, has only 9 of them. Spots like Rebus and Gosser are the most popular corners for overtakes, but both involve dramatic elevation changes. Each have their perils. Remus tends to see drivers make contact when the blind cutback often goes wrong, whereas Gosser tempts you into braking far too late, and the downhill nature shoots cars miserably into the gravel. A few swift bends still scatter the track, with turns like Lauda, Rent, or A1 really testing a driver's accuracy at high speeds. However, most of them don't send you off into the grass. Rather, there is a lot of paved runoff. But they often include some nasty curves most cars will want to avoid hitting, as they've been known to damage suspension and undertrays. A variety of types of racing compete here, with everything from lower Formula open-wheelers to motorcycles, touring cars, and all the way up to Formula One holding events regularly. Set among the gorgeously picturesque Alps, and including great racing on a challenging and history-rich circuit, it's easy to see why fans and drivers are both eager every time they come for a race. Well, Jake, it's not quite the Osterreich ring that the 79 actually raced at, but I'm pretty sure this is going to give us a good show regardless.
I mean, it's not as big and as long and as ferocious, but it is still one of the fastest tracks out there for average top speed on the iRacing service. It is honestly one of the great thrills, and what makes it so great is just how simplistic of a track design it is. Just the 9 corners out there on track, 4.32 kilometers at the base of the Styrian Mountains, and you look at what makes this track difficult. You've got constant overtaking opportunities, the run to Ramus at turn 3, the run to Schlussgold at turn 4. You then have yourself a very interesting middle sector, the only 2 left-handers on the track in Rauk and Wirth. And then you find yourself to the final 2 corners of Rinton, A1 as it's written here, but I've heard it called Red Bull Mobile once upon a time as well. It's really a track that tests the absolute limits. And speaking of limits today, Joe, track limits. That's going to be a huge talking point.
Oh, it absolutely will. Hopefully that doesn't cause problems. Of course, they do have curbs on the exits, which will also be something of a talking point and maybe stop that. In the meantime, let's take a look at last season's championship points and how things wound up. Pauli Partanen basically dominated everybody. Tolinen was the one that was able to take best of the rest, but still nearly 100 points behind him. Timothy Reed and Paul Williams came somewhat closer, along with Gernot Friesche kind of trying to settle out the final spot on the podium of the points. Then you've got Timothy Vaughn, a bit of a jump back from them. Interesting note, as we did have Michael de Turk with us for much of last season, actually in the booth helping out, he still managed to wind up in the top 10 in points. You have to wonder what could have been if he was able to race all season if it weren't for the health issues that he had to deal with. But what ifs are always difficult to determine. What was the team standings. Jake, how's that look?
Well, it looked like it was always going to be a close fight, but it was just a brilliant hold in the end by Marlboro Team McLaren. They built up a huge margin. Pauli Partanen didn't come back for the final couple rounds and ultimately was able to stave off the challenge by 7 points only from the Olympus Cameras Wolf Racing team. Martini Lotus finished off in third. Those top 3 were away from the battle fourth between Ligier Gitanes and the Candy Team Tyrrell team, which led a battle, again, another 2-team battle between Equipe Renault Elf and Auto Delta Alfa Romeo. Final 3 were Shadow Racing Team, who were a little bit lonesome towards the end, and then the Vorsteiner Arrows Racing Team holding off the Parmalat Brabhams.
As for today's race, it's going to be 32 laps around this venue to try and decide our first victor of the season. But, of course, the drivers have open setup out here, and I'm wondering how most of them are going to try and swing that because, as you said, it's a very fast course, but it's got some swift corners in there, so it could be a bit of a toss-up. No spare car, though. If they have them have any sort of damage, they're going to be stuck with it since there are no scheduled pit stops in this series, or they'll just have to give up a ton of time to try and come and visit their crew. They also have a drive-through penalty at 17 incidents, so those off tracks, the track limits, that's where the talking point comes in. And then if they go even farther than that, 25 will disqualify them completely from the session. We're getting a little bit of cloud cover in these last couple minutes, and I'm wondering if that's going to cool down the track any, because Topi Korteniemi actually has the provisional pole with Alex Millward trying to chase him, but they are just now finishing their second lap. Korteniemi did not improve. Millward did, but it looks like it was not enough as he's still 3/10 off, and Tolinen comes in to, well, briefly have third before Timothy Reed now jumps up into second.
And it's a huge field today, 29 drivers tackling this Red Bull ring to start off. So this is going to be a case of look all around and hope that you've got all the time available and you can find the right results up and down the order. Drivers have been searching for the right times. And I tell you what I think's the most surprising about today, Joe, is that if you look down the field and you see someone like Hervé Trengarade, who has been a staple in this series with the number 22 in terms of iRating, this is a strong field.
Yeah, it is. Well, and Andy T is the strongest amongst them by only 0.04 of a second. He has topped Topi Korteniemi on his first flying lap, so he could yet still improve that. Watch out for Marco Kayla. He still hasn't set a time either. He's the number 3 out there right now. And Gernot Frische, who still continues to struggle with this format of the tires, has managed to get himself into 9th, although he has been pretty good from time to time. And he's still the most winningest driver in this series. So it's going to be a long ways before he gets caught on that one. We've got about 2 minutes left, it looks like, and I know we're still watching what looks like Andy T, I think, but Kayla's coming across the line for his first flyer, and is actually just starting his first flyer, which means Marco Kayla's only gonna get one time lap. Now that's interesting.
One lap, one opportunity. Marco Kayla is certainly gonna have to put everything down on the table and then some, running down the hill and then back up to the braking zone at Ramus, which means you can brake slightly later at that point in time. Try and feather the throttle as you try and put the power up the hill. And now you take this roller coaster up and then down. Have yourself a nice day. Braking for Slushgull Corner at turn number 3. Andy T gives himself more buffer room, gave himself an extra 10th, an 18.650, but moving through the 2 left-handers, which will be coming up next then. These are the 2 corners that are the make or breaks in this lap, and there is a huge amount of jostling through that opening corner for Marco Kayla. Very unsettled heading through Rauk.
So is that going to be quick for him? Did he trim it out and make it slower down through this portion of the lap? Right now it's looking like a decent one, and I believe he's been within the track limits. This is going to be the real test. Ooh, he pushed it pretty far there, and yep, he's done. He's parking it.
And that's the difficulty of going out so late in a session and searching for that time. He's the only driver, Joe, who has not got a time on the board, and now it becomes a case of mission impossible because turn 1 on this track is very much a funnel.
Yeah, and it causes all kinds of problems. He has got a lot of work to do here today, but our qualifying is finished. So why don't we take a glance through our starting order here today with Andy T taking the 2 bonus points for the pole position. Topi Kortaniemi will start from 2nd. After that, you've got Timothy Reed starting 3rd and Alex Millward shuffled down to 4th in the end. Jukka Tolinen will start from 5th as Mika Leno will be P6. Michael de Turk already won 2 of the vintage races this weekend. He's going to go for the Triple Crown and try for it today from 7th as Kimmo Viekainen will be starting 8th. Gernot Frische starts from 9th, and then the top 10 are rounded out by Paul Williams.
In 11th position will be Kevin Honorato, with Xavier Sanchez lining up in 12th position. Hervé Trengarade will have Pep Meyer for company on row 7, with Kartik Pai in 15th, and the aptly named Joshua Germany here in Austria starting in 16th position. Timothy Vaughan is 17th along with Pepe Fuentes, leaving Ryan Van Wurst and Nicholas Mucanos rounding out the top 20 in this field.
I have to admit, you made me laugh with Josh's name there. Barry West starts 21st, as it's Phil Lake in 22nd. Then it's Matthew Sufi in the 23rd position. You've got Daniel Downing next and Tommy Kayokujala in the 25th spot. Then it's Jack Johns, 26th, Stephen King scarily in the 27th spot. Chris Roberts, the last one to set a time in 28th, and Marco Kayla is the only one that did not set a time in 29th position. So I mentioned just a bit ago that we have an attempt at the Triple Crown from de Turk after he won the 49s and the Camel Series at Le Mans. And this is going to be the one race not there in the 3 Series this weekend. Only one other driver, according to our stats, has done that on the broadcasts, and that was Jamie Fluke, which is going to make a lot of people go, oh, of course, with the way that Jamie sometimes pops in here. But it looks like everybody is now out on the grid. So the lights will come up as the engines start to rev for the first round of the season. And the green flag is out. Ooh, Andy T goes nowhere. And his teammate Kortaniemi is immediately passed down the inside, coming into Lauda. He's going to be able to get ahead. We got a bit of action in behind him. Cars coming together. And it looks like de Turk was indeed a part of that. Somebody gets spun around. I'm not sure if anybody else was involved other than those couple of cars, but it looks like one was the biggest victim.
Yeah, Jukka Tolinen is the one who goes around, starting in 5th place. So Tolinen now also with work to do, as they will now hit Ramus for the first time. 2 and 3 wides they go through. Everyone trying to scatter about to avoid it. One car jumping off the road is Hervé Trengarade trying to stay well out of the way. But as they run down the hill, Andy T is in the lead of this race. Courtiniemi second, Millward in third. And what surprised me off of that start, it wasn't the fact that Andy T got a bad start because the car bogged down. It was the fact that his reaction time just simply wasn't there.
Well, he managed to withhold the lead, at least for now. And Daniel Downing was the one that spun coming through Ramus, but was able to carry on. Hopefully that car isn't too damaged. He doesn't have to visit pit lane. Courtiniemi within half a second right now. Alex Millward still chasing him from third position, having been able to jump up on that one. How about the start for Paul Williams? Has got himself up 5 positions into 5th.
Yeah, it certainly has, and it's a great start in terms of this race, jumping up, gaining pace, gaining all of that momentum. And if you can find places early, that really does give you all of the confidence. Paul Williams certainly has shown that, jumping up 5 off of this start. But at least at this point in time, these 3 drivers know what they want to do. And it's going to be a case of break away early. If they can break away early, Courtiniemi and Andy T, their race is going to be so much easier. Javier Sanchez, again, really in a fight. And Heike streaming out there right now on Twitch, probably one of the most famous Spanish streamers out there. Someone going off way in the background. He's certainly going to be hoping to gain some good places early.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch who that was, but on screen, that was Karthik Pai that we see leading a whole group of cars. In fact, they're still coming down through here, down through Schlossgold, and it includes Sanchez, Germany, Kayla, Leno all in there. And you can see the side-by-side right now, Germany losing out to Marco Kayla, who has made quick work of the field. He has gone from 29th and last up to 12th right now on lap 2.
It just shows you that, you know, the cream rises to the top, and he's proving that with move upon move. Little search to the inside, looking at the penultimate corner through Red Bull Mobile, and to another lap will they go. And a 1:99, currently the quickest lap time of anyone at the moment. No surprises, Andy T setting the early pace, but they are going to start running out of cars to go through, and big trouble in the back. Josh Germany getting tipped around by Mikko Leno, who was also trying to recover. So big issues there, and especially because it's not like the 90s circuit, they get away with it because it's asphalt runoff.
And Mikko giving a quick apology over the radio. Obviously did not mean to do that. Look at all the chaos that it's causing just behind him. I think that was that looked like Ove Trangere trying to give a go. My goodness, this is like a NASCAR race out here. Lake gets a position as well. He's up to 19th with that one. It all erupts all over again down into Schlossgold. That's Leno trying to defend from Van Voorst, but it looks like Ryan's not able to get back through there.
Yeah, unable to quite find the run, but this mid-pack is expected to be rowdy, is expected to have a lot of battles. The car that spun last lap was Pepe Fuentes trying to get through Jack Johns there in the middle. So Jack Johns, number 12, certainly searching for a way through. Club UK&I, certainly every which way he tries to navigate to try and find a pass. This is a place where you have to be precise with making those passes, because you can easily battle 3, 4, 5 corners side by side if you're not too careful.
I'm hoping this will calm down for a bit soon so that we can maybe get to a replay of that opening incident in the first corner with the Turk and try and figure out what happened in and amongst that. No attempt here from Fuentes on Johns this time, although Johns spins the tires up. That's going to make him slow off the corner. Look at him go 3 wide in front of him as well. Holy cow, this is craziness. Van Voorst along with Mukanos and Leno. And it looks like Leno's going to try and break deep up into Ramus. But, oh, he's got the exit. I thought for sure that Mukanos was going to out-drag him. But no, the inside of that corner once again causes all kinds of woe.
It does, and it's all about how early you can put the power down on the exit, and the struggle was very much there. They all weave and try and find their angle into Schlossgold, and as close as you like. Tires tapping again between Fuentes and Johns, so every time they go through this section of track, they are really trying to find that space and battle. Barry West as well making a place through all of that on Tommy Kallio-Kujala. So everyone's finding a little bit of space to get through, but as we have said before, mid-pack always going to be hectic with 29-car fields. It's good to know, though, that the front has stayed calm, and it's small packs that are starting to form in and around that top 10. Packs of 2, packs of 3, for example.
Speaking of the front, let's go back to the beginning here for a brief while and see what happened at the start. Michael de Turk, I'm pretty certain, got a very, very good start. And there you see him rushing up. He's in the orange car, and he's going to send it in, but someone else sent it in behind him. That was Viekainen, it looks like, that got into the side of him, and then it caused a chain reaction. His car is just kind of got sent out.
And if we could go back live, de Turk and Viekainen have just come together again over at turn 3 at Remus. So Kimmo Viekainen and Michael de Turk, well, I wonder if they're going to be on their Christmas card lists as they go through. It was all Viekainen just making a mistake, just losing the back end going into the corner, and Michael de Turk was not alert and switched onto it and ran straight up the back of him.
Yeah, that seemed like that started from the spin of the 24, as de Turk did get away with it, but look at the damage on the nose and sticking it up the inside. Oh, and they come together. That is Gernot Frische that did that. That's a bit surprising from him. Honorado takes advantage and goes by both of them. Big hit into the wall from de Turk. Yeah, he's definitely not going to get the Triple Crown today, and in fact, I'm not sure he's going to see the checkered flag at all.
No, it's a real shame there, and that looked like everything on the inside was Gernot Frische trying to get there. Didn't quite pivot, ended up putting him over the inside curb, and the moment that happened, Michael de Turk, I'm surprised he's actually stayed out and is trying to continue on, because he might be under a wealth of damage at this point in time, and he is definitely going to be shaking up the pack, especially in the middle as they go through. But I'm surprised by Frische there, because he almost, I think, just wasn't expecting to have that much downforce, and you don't have long along those two left-hand corners to work out whether you've got the downforce or whether you don't, Joe.
Absolutely, and once again they shuffle around on their way into Remus, not just between de Turk getting passed by Fuentes, but in front of them passing between Josh Germany and Nick Mukanos. That's Germany that's going to get that spot, breaking ahead of the red and black number 19 of Mukanos, and behind them Ryan Van Voorst kind of watching on from the white machine. They go single file into the infield portion of the track once again as it continues to plunge downhill.
I can say that the black and orange mechanical flag is out right now for Michael de Turk, so no matter what happens, he does have to come down into the pits and fix that damage. So his race is going to be over as things stand, because as is tradition with iRacing Official Series, Joe, you do not get an extra car to go out there. You break it, you bought it, you go and drive. And of course, you break it, you bought it was one of the most amazing phrases that I think had been here in the GSRC. And it was back when Soup, I believe it was the one who coined that to me first.
Yeah, I remember him bringing that out, and it does feel appropriate. And another spot potentially gone is Barry West. Yeah, okay, he's parking it now. I think de Turk realized he may have been a little bit of a danger to those around him, and there's the tow. So our first retiree of the day is the one that we were kind of keeping half an eye on in case he was able to pull off a rare feat, and it's not going to be for him as we jump back up towards the front of the field. And is this Kayla, I think, that we're looking at in 7th? Yes, it is. This is Honorado that he's chasing. So, man, cracking up into the top 10, and he's still got quite a few laps to go. In fact, something about 25 laps, it looks like.
Oh, Honorato is so unsettled right now by Kayla. Kayla has been all over these two corners, and this has opened up wonderfully here for Jochen Rindt. Down the inside, in through the most committed section of track, pushes a little wide. That should be an instant point there for how wide he's run, but that won't matter too much in terms of pushing it. In fact, it will give, though, Kayla a little bit of a look behind, because this is all about now how calm you need to be. There is a slowdown penalty, but Kayla, I think, is going to have to try and be clever here when trying to serve it. He's going to lose out and lose all that time right now. He's got a 40-second window in order to serve it, but he's trying to serve it in such a way, and he has done right now, where he still remains side by side, so he can still attack again.
Yeah, looks like, wow, that was very clever driving. And unfortunately, his internet connection giving us a little bit of an issue there for a moment. But he used that outside line heading into Ramus to great effect. Job's not done around the outside of Schlossgold. And he is through. Impressive awareness from the 3-car. Now he's got to set his sights forward, and it's going to be a little bit of a trip before he reaches 5th place. Paul Williams is 4 seconds up the road.
They have brought back a train of 5, but that's what makes Schlossgold such an amazing corner to fight for, Joe, because everybody is trying to fight for one piece of real estate, which is the outside. It's a corner that falls away magnificently down. Pep Meyer, Kartik Pai, Xavier Sanchez, Geno Friche, and Kevin Honorato all there. But it's a wonderful piece of track where you can just fall down, everyone fights for it, and ultimately it creates great racing and it creates close racing through that corner specifically.
Absolutely does, as this train files out of Lauda. Kayla still towing them along. Can he break this slipstream and get away from them, or is he going to tow them all the way up to Paul Williams? He's down to 3.6 seconds, so he is gaining, and it's looking like these cars are going to try and hang tough. A little bit of a mistake from Gernot Friesche, but Sanchez is not able to take advantage from behind him. Sanchez with the bright blue rear wing that you can see, chasing on the dark blue Candy Tyrrell of Gernot Friesche, coming down into the braking of Schlossgold. They're going to stay in order.
I love how on the back of the wing it says top, as in that's the top of the car, in case you needed any reminder of which way up a car like this goes. So charging through the next 2 left-handers on track, the only 2 left-handers actually on circuit, you are going to have to be really alert to how you really battle around. Track temperature today, oh, that's trouble. That's about 3 cars then in all sorts of hurt. Rear wing bent on one, another driver in trouble, Stephen King. Well, that's not the best novel in the world to be writing. Out of the race, and there's a spin.
Yeah, unfortunately, King got a bit of a fright because Sufi had a spin down through Schlossgold, and as cars slowed up, he couldn't get checked up in time. Kallio Kuhala was one of the ones that also lost a lot of time, and then you saw him spin off there into Rauk as well. So he maybe made a little bit of contact and got involved in it as well. And there's the pass, as it looks like Friesche was not able to hold Sanchez back. And in fact, Sanchez is going to have the desired line into Remus. Oh, but he slides the tires, and that causes a checkup for Friesche. Here comes Karthik Pai. The Texan is going to try and see if he can overtake the Austrian at his home track.
Absolutely. So over towards turn 4. This might be the place to get it done, but again, that outside line works initially, but you're going to have to pull it up at some point, Gernot. And suddenly Kartik Pai says, thank you very much. Easy as pie, some would say. A nice move, moves up then another position, goes to 9th, and crucially didn't lose all the time in the world on that pass, so is able to still stay in line, stay in position, and gain places that way.
This is a bit unusual for Friesche. He usually has been very poor in qualifying lately and very good in the races, getting podiums even when he qualifies outside of the top 10. As we ride on board with him, he's been bleeding places this past lap, and he might not be done because Pep Meyer is the one right behind him and only about a quarter of a second back currently.
Well, just look at the front left here as we're on board right now from the roll hoop. The front left of the wing is tilted upwards. Indicates to me that he's got damage to the front and it's affecting him aerodynamically. That's going to be hurting him a lot through the 2 left-hand corners out here on circuit. So keep an eye out on that for Gernot Friesche. He is very much fighting a disadvantaged battle at this point in time.
So you're saying that his rivals have managed to get him tilted?
Yes.
Sorry, I had to do it. Anyways, Friesche still holding on to 10th, but that's not going to help as he goes way wide off into the gravel. And I do believe that is going to be the spot for Pep Meyer if he can just shut the door coming down into Rauk. And that he does into the left-hander. So Friesche back out of the top 10. He, in fact, is farther back from where he began.
It just shows you that a little bit of damage in a field this strong and this deep can certainly hurt. Josep Meyer finding the place, the number 27 Iberian, jumping up another one, and will be looking to try and chase down the likes of a very, very talented streamer in Xavier Sanchez, Heike 360 ES out there at this point in time. But I tell you what, there have been some underratedly quiet drives so far in this one, Joe. And the quiet one, I think, has been Timothy Reed. Yes, he's lost a position in the number 11 car, but to give him some credit, he's still within about 3 seconds of Alex Millward, who he himself is no slouch when it comes to wheeling these.
Absolutely, and it's kind of surprising because I was looking at Alex and Timothy, 15th and 11th respectively in terms of iRating. I would have thought they'd be a little bit higher than that, but that just goes to show you that's with both of them over 4K iRating. They're not even in the top 10 here today.
Shows you all you need to know about what makes great racing is that you get drivers who are 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 iRating taking a look at this and going, God, this is a real challenge, and you get real competition as there has been a spin actually further back in the pack. Yuka Tolonen has just gone around, and this is going to be awkward here. 3 wide on the exit because through will go both Philip Lake and Barry West. I'm surprised to see Philip Lake so far down the order. He is someone that I would consider, Joe, a classic specialist when it comes to camel, and round you go, pretty much left, right, which way you find it, and he somehow avoided it like Sebastian Vettel did 2012 for the world title.
Well, I'm going to put that one on you for commentator's curse, just talking about how great Phil Lake is. Yeah, he's normally seen, is he still having trouble getting the grip in that car? He's usually seen over in the Camel Series with multiple championships. In fact, took this last one by a single point, but has told us that he is going to take a hiatus from that series. So maybe he's trying to see if he can improve himself over here a little bit, but having a bit of a rough start today. He's down to 24th. Yeah, Tolonen, let's not forget, was the one that got sent off at the very first corner. Has not been able to do much to try and regain those spots. He's still in 22nd. Let's make that 21st, maybe, if he can get this pass done on Barry West. West is going to have the desired, not desired inside line, really, around this corner. In fact, there you see right there, smooth around the outside. The 8 car is now into 21st.
I wonder if Barry here is about 20 years too early in terms of the cars that will suit him, because, of course, West sponsorship on the McLaren didn't happen for a good 15, 20 years at that point. Andy T, though, again, setting another fastest lap, a 1:19.467. This isn't surprising, though, Joe, compared to what you'd say is other races out there on the iRacing service, because this, unlike a lot of other categories out there, is very much a fuel-dependent car in terms of gaining top speed. You can see times drop by almost a second, sometimes 1.2, 1.3 over the course of a race stint.
Yeah, the Cosworth engine was definitely not all that fuel efficient, even though it had been around for quite some years at this stage, and it sucks fuel up. Sanchez is trying to get involved in this with Paul Williams, who is fighting with Honorado, and now with a better exit from the inside. That's impressive out of the 7 car. He's going to send it down to the inside of Schlossgold. Can he once again prove everybody wrong about where's the fastest way at this track? And yes, he does. So Sanchez now up into 7th.
And Paul Williams struggled with a slowdown penalty on that last lap. That's why he fell backwards into the clutches of this group. Had Kayla go through, Honorato go through, Sanchez go through. Now Kartik Pai to the inside. Vert corner contact. Round goes Paul Williams. Finds himself in the kitty litter, trying to get himself back going. Not sure if there was what we would like to say is net code on that one, but for Paul Williams, that is frustrating. And look how long he had to wait to make sure he could safely rejoin the circuit. He's still waiting.
And looks like he's going to be able to get back on. Oof. As thankfully everybody is heads up coming through there. Almost another accident. We had another big one as well. The 24 has retired, Kimmo Viekainen, after a massive wreck coming out of Rent. This was contact with Timothy Vaughn about a minute and some change ago. I think we may have found, here it is, right here. Thankfully, this is not real life, because otherwise this would have been an almighty wreck.
That's a huge one, because you're on your roll hoop, and it's the sort of accident where you just hope that the car rolls itself back onto wheels again, so you've got a chance to slow down. There is nothing there really stopping you at that point except friction, and that can always be a really, really scary accident to have, because it was just a a tap of tyres, and you're sort of wondering why just a tap of tyres can be such a heavy accident as Gernot Fritzsche looks to try and jump about in his battle with Josep Meyer here, who is on the outside trying to hold the line and holds onto it fantastically. You wonder why such a small tap of wheels means so much on an accident. It's because you get that extra force that goes through that effectively speeds and accelerates up the tyre, very much like clockwork, and that extra generation of tyre speed generates that lift where a car can really fly up in the air.
Yeah, the tires come together and pop off of each other, and unfortunately it's little you can do when the car is not touching the ground. Meanwhile, Pep Meyer is having none of Gernot Fritzsche getting back through him. He's been attacking from multiple corners, and he's going to do it again. Up into Ramus, round the outside. That's the way to go. Deep under the brakes from Meyer. Will that hold him back? Oh, a bit of contact. They get away with it, but here comes Micheleno now.
That's the sort of move I'd expect at Port Royal, Joe, not here around this Red Bull Ring. And it shows the block pass to get it done. It opens the door up for Micheleno, who is also on that recovery. And, gets a huge wiggle, side-to-side contact. And that's Fritzsche then bailing out into the gravel. And that very much is not what Gernot wanted on home soil. There's some drivers who absolutely love racing at their home tracks. I think Gernot's the complete opposite. I think he's having a torrid time of things today.
Yeah, this is not working out for him. Also, in general, it feels to me like this is a pretty messy race for the Lotus 79 guys, especially top split. We've seen far more contact than I'm used to.
Well, this is the thing. You have a really fast track, Joe, where the emphasis and opportunity as Marco Kahler actually sets the fastest lap of the race, which shows you he could have fought for the victory here today. You got a really fast track, really heavy braking zones. Everyone wants to try and find a move and opportunity, and this is the sort of circuit where you have to respect this track. You have to respect every corner for what it is, and too wide sometimes isn't the best way forward in terms of trying to go out there and trying to win a race today. Yes, it's also the first round, and I was looking at a couple people who are in this race starting out saying, we never knew that this car really existed and was so good to drive. I think this is just teething pains right now, Joe, of a series which might just become even more popular than it already is.
Absolutely. They did change the license level. It was a B-class license level to race this car last and pretty much all seasons it has existed in iRacing, and they've jumped it down to C at the request of the community. And there were some concerns about the racing quality. That said, I don't really think we can pin that on the class because, as I said, this is top split, so this is the best of the best. I think it is more down to just the nature of the circuit and the ferocity with which our drivers have started off wanting to get a good result. Speaking of ferocity, we're finally getting a bit of a break in the battling, or maybe not, as Honorado goes a bit wide. Coming through Lauda. Sanchez, that was a definite lift out of the 7 car. That's interesting.
Well, why not at this stage? No chance really of making that move stick here at Ramus Corner, so there's no reason to go out there to be aggressive at this point in time. And you sort of understand where you are in this race. We're on lap 18 right now. There are 15 laps to go in this race. There's no point showing your hand right now if you believe you do not have the pace to chase down the 5 drivers that are in front in T, Courtiniemi, Millward, Reed, and Kahler. This is a case for Xavier Sanchez for not just bragging rights here in terms of being up at the top of this field to be in 6th position when this is not what you would call his traditional race that he would jump in and he would get himself into. This is also to be top Iberian.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I do want to mention, because we were talking about Marco Kahler trying to make progress, he's gotten up to 5th because it looks like we lost Williams, and he's trying to catch up to Timothy Reed, but it's a full 7 seconds that he's having to cut down. So with 14 to go, it is possible half a second faster will do it, and I believe he's done that on some of the laps, but it'll be a tough task, and that's just to get to 4th place. He's going to have to hope for mistakes, I think, if he wants to reach the podium.
Yeah, mistakes definitely needed. Paul Williams still out there running, by the way, but he's down in 20th position right now. So he is a long way back in terms of where he wants to be. The battle just in front of him right now is for 17th place. It's Nicholas Mukanos here in the number 19. He's got Ryan van Voorst, who is just behind from the plains in the United States of America. And then just behind him, Jukka Tolonen, who's trying to find a way through. So a nice three-car scrap right now, and it's going to be the same philosophy, you feel, this battle, to like you would do at a Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. There's the Angry Birds helmet, so if you're going to send it, absolutely do so like that, and try and find a way through. T regains the fastest lap, but patience is going to be needed here, because it's not just a case of trying to get past one car, it's trying to get past two, and they have the same advantage now on the straights.
Even with the cloud cover that we're seeing. Oh, who's that? That is Vaughn. And a very strange place on track, the inside of Vert.
Oh, wow.
He spun there.
He did. He just got a little bit too aggressive, Joe. 360'd the car, found himself going again, and had to go through the entirety of the inside of the corner just to make sure he was off the line of anyone else going there. And this is how easy it is, because he's going through this left, and he just grabs a little wiggle on the application of power. And something we haven't really talked about is how much torque goes through those massive rear tires of that Lotus 79, and it is so easy to spin them up.
It's supposed to be Heikki 360's job, but I guess he managed to do his own little pirouette, and Vaughn is down to 16th now as he chases Jack Johns, who managed to get by him just as he returned to the track, and man, still spinning up those rear tires. Timothy Vaughn not having the best of days. He's up one position from where he began. We're used to seeing him a little bit higher than this usually, but we could say that about a lot of the drivers here.
Oh, wow. Sorry, I've just got a little bit of news on Paul Williams and why he's suddenly off the pace. It's the fact that he's lost his audio.
Oh, that explains it. That is unfortunately one of the pitfalls of sim racing. Is technical problems can cause you all kinds of issues. That's like if you went deaf for some reason in the real world and could not figure out exactly where the revs are on the car and hear what it's doing at all times. But in the meantime, we come back to Karthik Pai here, who is in 8th place. Pep Meyer has left behind Gernot Friese and instead is dealing with Mikko Leno, who is trying to recover after he had some issues early in the race. He approaches the pink and black number 27, who I have to say, I do like that paint scheme. Very eye-catching on Pep Meyer's car.
Yeah, and Meyer here is in the most unfortunate position that you can be in a sim racing battle, which is second in a 3-car train, Joe, because it puts you in what I like to call Schrodinger's overtake. You have to try and find a way to attack a car in front of you, but also defend from the car behind. It is a thankless task, an impossible task, and one which Josep Meyer has to be very careful about.
Yeah, got to be a chameleon here, watching both angles. It looks like, though, he's having to switch defense more so, because Karthik Pai pulling away slightly in front of him. Less chance to try and overtake from here. Cars using as much of that runoff as they can, but we haven't seen any black flags yet for those drive-through penalties. We'll keep an eye on that, because there's still plenty of laps to go for that to change. Don't need to go to it, but I can report that Tolonen got one more. He's up to 17th now after taking over Van Voorst.
Yep, so another position there, but the run again to Ramus, I think, is going to be key, and this is going to be the holding pattern and the holding station that you're going to find for a couple laps. And big slide from Meyer on power application. Effectively, it's like a funnel moving to the right. Apology over the in communications then with Mikko Leno behind, who's now got himself an opportunity down into Slushko corner. But again, an outside parabola working out once again for Josep Meyer, and they can abandon, at least for a couple laps, hopes of getting close to Karthik Pai.
Things still incredibly tense out there, and drivers pushing at 10 tenths. Some of them, unfortunately, pushing over the line and suffering the consequences. That was a little bit wide once again from Meyer, finding himself vulnerable here. He's got to watch out. Can't do that too many times as he continues to hold off Mikko Leno. coming along the front stretch. That's much better. He starts to pull away now, gets himself up to 4/10 ahead.
4/10 ahead, and that would be just enough breathing room through the Niki Lauda curve and down the hill on that run to the all-important sections of this circuit. And this is what makes a track like this so difficult to work out and understand. You all know that it's a high-speed thrill ride, that you've got to try and get as much top speed as you possibly can. The one difficulty that you have, though, in this sort of car is how you can generate that downforce, because the downforce is so related to that ground effect. And when you're running a car so low to the ground, this is the sort of track with all of the camber changes and a little bit of bumps that are there on circuit that you have to be head on a swivel for. You have to be alert to every little micro change that these Lotus 79s have been able to do.
So this kind of continues as it is, but you can see Andy T continuing to set fastest laps. And, well, as you'd expect, he's still our leader, a full 6 seconds ahead of Topi Kortiniemi. And Topi is no slouch and incredibly fast in pretty much any of the vintage cars that you put him in. So for Andy T to be this far ahead is mighty impressive. His teammate is probably going to have to ask him for a few tips here on how to be this fast. As there we go, there's some side-by-side racing. Pi defends from Meyer successfully.
Yeah, good defense then through the Niki Lauda curve and running down through. It has opened the door up, though, for Mikko Leno to try and go through. Has to go the long way around, though, the outside line in that Parmalat Brabham livery. Not going to find it on the inside, but it's going to try and get a switchback up and under. That's some great driving there from Mikko Leno, sensing the motive that Meyer might run slightly wide, coming out there of turn 3, opening up that inside. Meyer is so deep on the brakes, though. Broke about 15 meters later than Mikko Leno and held the place. So incredible braking that's going through. What I will say, though, if Lewis Hamilton has hammer time, Andy T's got tea time.
Not quite as calm as the name implies, though, and he sets another fastest lap. Man, what amazed me about Mikko is coming out of Ramus, he was still spinning the tires up and yet managed to be faster off the corner than Pep Meyer. He has got something impressive in that number 10 machine. It's just, if only he could have done a little bit more with it today. He looks a little bit stuck right now with these 8 laps to go. He's going to have to get tricky to overtake Meyer.
Yeah, you're going to have to try and find some unorthodox places if you want to try and make that move. Or it might just be that you want Josep Meyer to start really attacking Kartik Pai in the number 13. That might be the plan of action here. Make that happen. Try and find that move. Try and find that opportunity. He's not going to find the pass into Ramus corner, and is going to have to be patient once again, and has a huge kick of oversteer, trying to get early and aggressive on the power. I will say, though, the battle for second is actually closing in. Topi Kortiniemi had a little bit less luck with the traffic out here today as Meyer looked to angle to the inside. That gap under 2 seconds for the first time in a good 20 laps.
Yeah, so this could find itself getting very interesting here in a moment as Millward tries to reel them in. And also hearing that Timothy Reed may have had a bit of an issue at some point with an off-track and maybe a slowdown penalty. In fact, oh, you know what? I don't think it was a slowdown penalty. I think he was having trouble with traffic. It looks like Matthew Sufi did not treat the blue flags as though they were modern blue flags, and gave him a little bit of a headache for a moment. And there you can see that's more traffic that he's going by, but this time having a much easier time. Chris Roberts pulling over and letting Timothy Reed through.
I think Timothy Reed just outbroke himself into Ramus and got a little bit scared with the traffic behind on how deep they would go on the brakes. There was nothing really untoward between them out there on track. It just cost Timothy Reed some time, and ultimately it's a case of he's in a race right now as Timothy Reed did a 120.7 that last time by. You put that to comparison on what the car behind number 3 is doing here, Joe. Remember how you don't set a lap time and suddenly you're pulling a second and a half a lap on 4th place.
Oh, things are getting hot with Meyer and Pi once again, and it looks like Meyer's going the long way around, which will work out great for him because now he's got the inside into the double left-hander of Vert and Rauk is going to give him the spot. Maybe, yes, he chops down. Oh, no, he spins off. Too much throttle on it, and he keeps it from going into the wall, but all that hard work gets tossed away.
It absolutely does, and wow, what a moment there. Meyer had been grinding and trying to really find that overtake, and it's just a clip of grass on the inside that he's trying to balance, find the limit, and it's such a difficult limit on iRacing to find the limit of grip properly. He was right on 99 to 100, and he just tipped to 101, and the car snapped. That is the ultimate tank slapper.
Going to see a little bit of a battle with Ove Trangrade here for a moment, but after this is over, I'd love to get an onboard of Karthik Pai's view. Yeah, that one's not going to work down through Lauda. That's a hard place to overtake. Can we get a replay of Pai watching that incident happen in front of him? Because he had inches to spare and thankfully just checked up enough. Here it is. Car gets in front, sees it start to slip.
You have to have lightning reactions to see that one go through, and there has just been a pass for position. Karthik Pai's just lost out to Mikko Lehner. They're still fighting, same corner, one lap later, but wow. That is an exit stage right, if ever I saw an exit stage right, but you have to get back to battling on screen right now because they've been side by side for a good 2 corners here. Oh, huge slide from Mikko Lehner, holds on to it, but Lehner again has been really struggling to find these passes. It's like he's got the pace, but it's almost like a kid in the candy shop. He sees that overtake, gets it in front, and realizes that he's had about 3 sweets too many, and the position goes away again.
I wonder if he has some sort of damage or something, because you're right, he's mighty fast, but just can't seem to make anything stick.
Front left wing.
Yeah, he's got a tiny little bit there. That might be some straight line speed. There you can see it on screen now as he's fallen back slightly. That other battle that we saw on screen was Sanchez on Honorado. That also just broke up now as Sanchez spun the wheels coming off of this very corner. And here we go, another treat for us. Speaking of getting some sweets, and nope, I thought Nico had a better exit, and it looks like Karthik Pai doing a brilliant job of defense. You got to give credit to the 13 for today's race.
Absolutely. I mean, there aren't many days where you can say that you've gained 7 places in this one and not be considered one of the best drivers to charge up through this field. They've been driving absolutely fantastically. If you like the number 8, Andy T's got a fastest lap for you. That's an 18.888 out there on track. But Karthik Pai, this is an incredible drive, and Karthik Pai often goes underrated as a sim racer, as a driver. He is the sort of driver that effectively fills a seat and does a great job. He is very similar, very reminiscent, for example, Joe, for example, Alan McNish at a 24-hour race. It is very similar to that because Karthik Pai does a job well, doesn't get all the plaudits for it, but often comes away with a great result.
We might have to write Marco Kayla off of catching Timothy Reed. He had a run wide through Lauda and had to get off the throttle since he kind of clattered over the sausage curb. So he's on his lonesome, and I'm not sure he'll be able to run down the 15 car. Meanwhile, as we watch the fight for 8th, Nico seems to be getting close there, up through Remus every single time, and then just can't seem to get the job done through the rest of the course. So he closes into Schlossgold, and certainly not going to have an attempt that time by. So wonder what is making him quicker coming up into that second braking zone.
Confidence. It's an uphill braking zone, Joe, and that ability on an uphill braking zone compared to a downhill braking zone, it's stark. When you've got a downhill braking zone, the one thing you're worried about is just sailing far too deep into the corner and running off the track. With an uphill braking zone, you have that little bit of a buffer where you can sort of let off the brake if you've broken a little bit too early out on track. That's what I think gives him that confidence compared to everybody else in this race, and why he could still find 8th place come the end. We're on lap 30 right now, so just 3 laps to go to figure this out. And also to figure out right now is the Battle of the Iberians, 6th and 7th.
Yep, we've been keeping an eye on the battle behind them, but Honorado and Sanchez can't seem to get apart either. Man, this track has really gobbled up some big names. De Turk, Phil Lake, Viakainen, Paul Williams, all out today already. You can add Kallio Kuyala and Stephen King to that list as also being retirees. Still 23 of the 29 are circulating with 3 laps to go. And Kevin Honorado doing a fantastic defense, much like Karthik Pai, just not allowing Sanchez to really get any sort of chance to capitalize. I'm trying to think if we've seen any major mistakes out of the 23 up to this point.
No, we haven't really, and I think that's been quite telling from Kevin Honorato. When you've got 23 out of a 29-car field, you're always looking at how do I make an emphasis and a push forward. Most drivers who find themselves inside the top 10, when they look at a driver who's got a high number like 23 in a 29-car field, they panic because they do not know what a driver like that is capable of doing. Kevin Honorato has proven today that he's driven a clean race, he's driven an effective race, and to be perfectly honest, with this sort of field, he deserves to have a low number, he deserves to have a single-digit number with the way that he's been driving today.
Still hounding him, still hunting him down. And he's going to be able to keep him behind down into Schlusgold, at least this time. Breaking deep into that plunging right-hand hairpin and then accelerating out. We are going to get the white flag for Andy T, who is going to start lap 32 with about 6.7 seconds over Topi Kortaniemi, who you see on your screen, who has also got about 2.5 seconds over Alex Millward. So the podium drivers have basically been stuck out on their own for quite some time in this race, and now they only have to go around once more to try and wrap it up.
Yeah, they certainly do, and I think what's quite telling is that Andy T, even though he's got a gap of 6 seconds right now, is that he's been dealing with traffic throughout this, and he was even talking to Barry West on that last lap saying, you're going to cost a second. Now, someone who's been costed in terms of time, and that's what you could tolerate. What? How did you end up all the way out there, Yuka Tolonen? That's a really weird place to find out. That's the contact there, both of them together with Jack Johns.
Yep. I was just going to say, I was watching that as it happened, even though our cameras were not on it. Jack Johns and he were in a tight little fight, and man, Tolonen is going to want to forget this race. It's likely going to be a drop for him without much to write home about here today. But this man is going to kick it off with a win. The question is whether or not he's going to stick around to do more than just pick up victories off of the real competitors. Andy T taking the win in Austria to open up the season in the Classic Teams Championship. Kortaniemi is going to finish second behind him with Millward winding up third. Timothy Reed, a quiet but effective 4th place ahead of a charging Marco Kayla, kicking himself for failing to get a qualifying time in.
Yeah, it certainly has done, and I tell you what, it's still going to go on all the way to the end because Mikko Leino, looking every which way, has suddenly lost out with 2 corners to go. Great pass by Kartik Pai, sorting out that battle. And we also saw a little bit there on the final lap between Friche and Trengarade. It's Friche who holds on. Another driver who will be looking at today going, I really don't like this track, and I wish that there's going to be some better tracks that suit me later on in the season. Still got battles going on as well. Got Tolonen and Jack Johns. They're still not done as they go into the penultimate corner. And look at that. They almost interlock wheels as they go into the final section. And Tolonen, with conviction, gets one more around the outside.
I can't believe he was brave enough to try that again after they tangled last time out. But that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here And with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Ring. The first round of the Sunday Grand Prix series saw Andy T take another victory, adding to his tally. He came in with 16, so 17 will now tie him 7th overall with Pascal Ducers, the all-time wins list in this series. Topi Kortaniemi was 2nd, and Alex Millward was P3. You've got Timothy Reed just outside of the podium in 4th, and Marco Kayla, who doesn't look like he did much there in 5th, but you have to remember he did not set a qualifying time, started last of 29 cars, and got himself up to the top 5. Kevin Honorado with a cool drive to 6th ahead of Xavier Sanchez in 7th. Karthik Pai was P8. You've got Mikko Lino winding up 9th. Got to be a little frustrated as he got repassed by Pai after he had finally gotten by him at the end of the race. Gernot Friesche rounding out the top 10, mysteriously off pace today.
Yeah, I will just note as well that Mikko Lino had to let that position go through the penultimate corner because any one little bit of contact would have cost him his race. He was on 16 incident points at the line. 11th would belong to Hervé Trengarade, who has been in and around all of these classic series, a gain of 2 spots for him, with Pep Meyer in 12th position just behind. Joshua Germany from Club UK and Ireland here in Austria will take the lucky or unlucky spot of 13th ahead of Pepe Fuentes, 54 seconds adrift of your race winner. Timothy Vaughan will take 15th ahead of Ryan Van Voorst. Jukka Tolonen had a very, very entertaining day. Wouldn't say it's the day that Jukka would have wanted. From 5th, ultimately it is 17th. Jack Johns will take 18th ahead of Nicholas Mukanos in 19th position. And we now start to hit the lap down drivers and the drivers who did not find a finish today. Barry West starting those in P20.
Yeah, Daniel Downing recovered to 21st with Chris Roberts 22nd, and then Matthew Sufi, the last one to see the finish line, in 23rd today. Everything from there was DNFs not being able to get to the finish. We do have Andy T ready to talk to us here after another dominant victory here today, although it wasn't great at the very start of things. And I got to ask, Andy, were you a bit nervous coming off the line, suddenly seeing your teammate try and maybe take that lead away?
No, not at all, man. He's my teammate, and we'd spoken before the race that there's no point doing anything silly. So if he'd made that turn, I would have just followed him through, and we'd have left the battling for later.
Well, it didn't have to be that in the end, and you stretched away to about 7 seconds ahead. What do you feel like made the difference that you had more speed at this track? Because nobody really seemed able to touch you.
I don't know what it is with this place. That's 3 times now I've come here and sort of expected to be battled and run away a little bit. I honestly don't know. I guess we just get along. We just vibe together, right?
It certainly seems to suit you well, and it's a track that usually gives us a lot of action, which we did see out there today. It seemed a little messy from our perspective, but I wouldn't personally put that on the C class. I mean, how are your feelings? Our first time racing the Lotus 79s as a C class car.
It makes next to no difference, really. If it gets more drivers in the series, then fantastic. I think the bigger issue we have is the races are too long for most people on the service, and that just hurts popularity. It's maybe something we need to talk about. I mean, from my perspective, and probably from the people at the back's perspective, if the races are shorter, we have far less issues with traffic and mess and horrible things happening, and we just kind of see where everyone is on pace.
That's an interesting point. That's a talking point I had not heard brought up yet, at least from what I've been paying attention. So I'll have to consider that one. Congratulations again on another victory. Anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, Marco, what the 5th up 24? Holy moly, man, that guy's unreal. Thanks, Topi, for some help this week, figuring out setup and doing a bit of battling and figuring things out. Hoops, as always, you are the absolute worst. And shout outs to you guys as usual. Great broadcast. The fam, Kim and Martin, thanks for watching. Love you guys.
It was Andy T, your victor here today, which is going to take us to second place as Jake has caught up with Topi Kortsinemi, who apparently had an agreement with our winner and no conflict whatsoever.
Well, we've seen famous agreements, of course, get broken. The most famous of those is the one between Senna and Prost at Imola that one year. But Topi, no such dramas for you. It was a case of just trying to effectively run your race. But again, it looked like Andy just had the better edge out on you today. And your consolidation of second, I don't think, is a sour note in your cap. I think you drove a fantastic race. But talk us through it from your perspective.
Yes, exactly what you said. Yeah, at the start I was surprised to see Andy so sloughed off the line, but then again I never have had driven the inside line in the T1 and went a little wide there and was lucky to keep it in pointing forward. So I think when I pushed I could pull a little gap to what Alex Millward was behind me, yeah. And if I started playing it safe or there was some traffic, he gained on me, but it was like managing that gap.
So you're able to manage that gap. Let's talk about traffic because it's become now a talking point here in terms of the racing. You just caught the back end, the fringes of the traffic inside the final 5, final 10 laps. It looked like a little bit of time was hemorrhaged away by Andy in terms of that respect. But in terms of the pace disparity from the top of the field to the bottom of the field, do you feel like when you're out here racing this series, you've got so many strong competitive drivers up at the top of the field that when everyone's pushing so hard to be the best at the top, it naturally creates that gap where people who are a little bit newer to the car do have a larger curve to try and get better and understand this Lotus 79?
I think the traffic was good. They didn't do anything unexpected mostly, and they left the space when needed. Of course, when I see a new name, I'm always a little bit anxious. What are they going to do? But I think I don't have anything bad to say about them today.
Well, if this track wasn't difficult enough, next week might just be even more. So how are you feeling about Mount Panorama Bathurst?
Oh, I'm going to love it.
That's all we need to say. Topi Kortsinemi there, Joe. Second position. He's going to love it next week.
No doubt. And I'm sure there's some drivers who won't have quite as much love for that track and this car combined together, as that's going to be difficult. But we like to see some difficulty, as that'll challenge the best of the best. And we are going to close up before we head off to Australia. So a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage of the Sunday Grand Prix series. And thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out our Bandcamp if you want to find more work. And thanks to the team today, Jake, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com, and there's a link in the description below for that. But don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because Bathurst will be Sunday, June 26th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, so don't miss that. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. Up next, in fact, it's going to be the Sunday Drivers' Cup at Tsukuba. That'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.